Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to have an opportunity to go over the Thrive Maine application for our cycle number 2, which will open up on May 23rd. Today, we're going to go over what we did in the first round and some process and qualification changes for the second round. We're also offering a webinar next week that will go through the new application or updates to the application portal. So we're excited about that as well. A little housekeeping: if you have questions, please utilize the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to answer those throughout the presentation, and we'll have a little space at the end to also go through those in a live format that we can answer those live through that Q&A. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jen Cummings. I'm the Director of Business at the Finance Authority of Maine, and we're in charge of rolling out the Thrive Maine dollars into the state. We also have joining us Laura Rigby, who is our Thrive Program Manager that's been helping us deploy the funds. And we also have Miranda Pelkey from Maine PTAC, who's going to go over the UEI process for us today and give you some tips and tricks on how to make that process a little less painless than it was perhaps in the past. So we'll get right into it. And again, please utilize that Q&A if you have questions as we move forward in the presentation. So just a little recap, Thrive Maine's a forgivable loan program for eligible small Maine businesses and nonprofits that were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The funding that we received was $58 million between 2 rounds of funding. The first application cycle completed in the fall of 2022. And we are gearing up to launch, as I mentioned, at the end of May on May 23rd. These funds were made available through the American Rescue Plan Act, allocated by the legislature and the governor under LD 1733 through the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. FAME is one entity amongst about 100 throughout the state that is deploying ARPA funds. So if you have questions or maybe this program doesn't fit your needs, you should check out the Department of Economic and Community Development's website, where they house all of the other agencies that are deploying ARPA funds for the state of Maine. So as I mentioned, the Thrive program is forgivable loans. So it is a debt instrument, but there is no repayment throughout the term of the loan. The loans granted are eligible to be $10,000 to $500,000. This is one of the changes that we'll go over today, is the decrease of that eligible loan amount to $500,000 as a cap to be able to help more Maine businesses. We're going to make the loan amount a little bit smaller. So once that loan is initiated, it will be forgiven at a rate of 25% each year until it's completely forgiven in year 4. This does indicate a taxable event, so you would want to check with your accountant to make sure that works for your specific business. The forgiveness can be assumed if the company sold during that 4-year period. We just need notification of that over within that time frame. There is no payments or interest earned or interest accrued on the loan unless the company goes out of business. So each year you have to certify that the company is still in operation. We prompt that with an email or a written letter that your company would have to sign and indicate that it's still in operation. And at that point, that forgiveness would be generated on that annual anniversary. There is no collateral or personal guarantees needed on these forgivable loans.
Just a reminder.
And again, if you don't mind using that Q&A function, that would be great, rather than the chat function. So the general requirements for the program, currently open organizations that are eligible cannot have more than 500 employees. That is as part of the regulation for these funds. Or it also includes contract employees. So if you have over 500 employees on your books or contracted employees, that would exclude you from the program. You do have to be headquartered in the state of Maine and have 50% or more of your employees based in the state. The incorporation date of your company has to be before August 31st of 2022. And you do have to be in good standing with the state of Maine, as well as have up-to-date payroll, state and federal taxes. They all need to be current. If you are on payment plans for any outstanding taxes, those that are current, your payment plans are current, that's acceptable. Just can't have any past due taxes. And we do cross-reference that with Maine Revenue Service. You do have to have a UEI number, which Miranda will go through that process in a few moments. And you also have to have a remaining negative COVID-19 impact of greater than $10,000. And we'll go over that a little further in a couple more slides. This is a change from round one, so just make sure that we want to focus on that. The application cycle for the Thrive program, if you were given an award in round one, you're not eligible to receive an award in round two. So I'm just going to point out the differences on a broad level between the first round and the second round. First of all, I want to say that when we rolled out the first Thrive round, we learned a lot. And we heard you. We heard some opportunities for improvement, and this is us trying to adhere to that and try to make it a little better and a little more user-friendly, as well as create some fairness in the application process that maybe wasn't felt in that first round. So the first round, we really focused the eligible loan amount on the amount of pandemic damage that was incurred by your business. And we had, you were filling out one of three loss categories and determining how much quantitatively your company was affected by the pandemic. This time, there is a component to that. As I mentioned in the slide prior, the $10,000 minimum of having to have a COVID impacted company. This time, there is that component. That's kind of the first check. You have to still have had impact because of the pandemic with a $10,000 impact. But the award amount that you'll be provided is based on a forward strategic looking plan that grows and stimulates the economy in the state. So definitely a shift from the first round to the second round. The other thing that we also heard is that the award process was a little challenging because of the first come first serve way it was deployed. And this time it will be based on a competitive scored application. So not everyone that applies is going to get an award, but it will look a little different. It's not going to be first come first serve this time. Each application that we receive will be looked at and graded, and that impact statement that you're going to be producing that explains your plan, your impact from the pandemic, as well as what you plan to do with the funds, is going to impact on how likely it will be that your award will be given to your business. So again, not looking at solely the pandemic damage, but also looking at strategic forward-thinking plans for your company. How is it going to help you grow? And in turn, how does that stimulate the economy in the state, whether that's through, additional jobs or creating another manufacturing line or whatever it might be. And Laura will get into those details momentarily. And the last change that we'll go over is in the first round, we encouraged all sectors to apply, every industry type. This time, we are still able to accept applications from every industry type. However, construction, manufacturing, science and technology companies will be prioritized in the scoring model. And those are directly in line with the state's 10-year strategic plan. And Laura will get into that in a moment. There is the asterisk on the cycle 1 that says all sectors welcome. There are some excluded on a federal basis, including adult entertainment, gambling, religious and fraternal organizations, lobbying, political entities, and anything that has to do with marijuana cannot be included in those. So I'll turn it over to Laura now. She's going to talk about the process changes and how things will look.
Super. All right. So as Jen said, this cycle is going to be a bit different. It's going to focus on the future instead of the past. And so with that, detailed calculations of pandemic impact are not required. In cycle 1, if you applied, you remember there was an EBITDA calculation, or you had to provide receipts for pandemic purchases. That will not be required this time. Organizations will need to submit a written outline, the narrative of your pandemic damage. You'll also have to submit a list of all of the received pandemic funding, and then certify from that there's still an outstanding $10,000 or more of a loss from the pandemic. But the real focus of the application is going to be on what we're calling the impact statement, which is a future-looking strategic plan. So your eligible loan amount is not the pandemic loss anymore. That was in round 1. In round 2, the funding that you are applying for is funding for your specific plan detailed in the impact statement. Just to step back for a second, our overall objective is to further strengthen the Maine economy through impactful investments in the future. So what we're looking for on a high level in these impact statements, in these future-looking plans, is one or more of the following things: that your organization improves efficiency, develops additional capacity, enhances service, diversifies and enhances revenue streams, and or adds quality Maine jobs. We're going to talk a ton more about this and all of the other nitty-gritty bits of how to apply in the next webinar, which will be next week. And we'll send you a link to sign up to all that. But this is in general what we're looking for in a future-looking strategic plan. And so start thinking about that as you are brainstorming what you're going to apply with. Jen also mentioned that we are not doing first come, first serve. This is going to be a competitive, scored process. It's really important for everyone to know that we will not have money to fund all of the applications. And because of that, it's really important that you think carefully about what your strategic plan is and have it be thoughtful, have it be feasible, and have it be impactful. In round 1, in cycle 1 in the fall, we got requests for almost 7 times more dollars than we had available. We are anticipating a similarly competitive round. We're just doing it a little bit differently. That time it was first come, first serve. It is not first come, first serve anymore. So our review team will look at all of the applications, we'll score them according to a couple metrics, which we'll go through in more detail next webinar. And we'll rank all of the applications from the highest score down to the lowest. And we will work through and give out as allocate based on the scores. And once we're through with the money, that's it. I can't say that we are going to give out this many loans or the score has to be above this much. We just don't know. It depends on what people are asking for, and we'll give away as much as we can. So this time, what's important to do with your application is just get it in within the window. The window is from May 23rd at 9 a.m. to June 23rd at 4:30 p.m. It doesn't matter if you get it in on that first day or that last day, but that it's in. Similarly, we're shifting the communication timeline. Last time we were trying to get the word out on applications as they came through and as we knew about them. Since we are scoring every single application and ranking them against each other, we're going to be communicating all decisions at the same time this time. And the timeline, as you could imagine, is going to be determined based on how many applications we receive. It's going to be very different if we get 200 applications or if we get 2,000 applications. So our hope is to have decisions by the end of the summer, but that is in no way a guarantee. We will do our best to go through efficiently, but as you all know, you are spending a lot of time putting these applications together. We want to be thoughtful and really review every single application, not rushed. So we're not setting a guaranteed timeline for decisions. And then, as Jen said, there is a sector focus. Most sectors and projects can apply. It excludes some industries because this is federal funding and there are federal restrictions on some areas, but most sectors and projects can apply. Within the for-profit applications, we're going to prioritize companies and projects that have to do with construction, manufacturing, science, and technology. This is because it aligns with the governor's 10-year strategic economic plan, and those projects tend to produce more direct and indirect jobs and labor for the state, which is one of our objectives. So I'm going to pass it over now to Miranda, who's going to talk about how to get your UEI. This is a requirement. You have to have a UEI to submit an application this round. So listen up. This is really important information.
Hi, everybody. Like Laura said, my name is Miranda Pelkey. I'm with Maine PTAC. Our organization is actually transferring their name over to Maine Apex, which is why you see that title on the screen. But we work for Eastern Maine Development Corporation. We help small business owners find and negotiate government contract opportunities. And the reason that I'm talking to you today is because if you are having difficulty obtaining a UEI, we are probably going to be the people that you need to speak with. So I'm going to actually share with you, right here, some links. So since you'll be receiving these slides, these are hyperlinked. You can click right on them and they're going to bring you to some really helpful videos. These videos are going to walk you step by step with the way that you can obtain your UEI. You're going to start by going to sam.gov. SAM stands for System for Award Management. It is the database where anyone who wants to do business with the government or receive any type of federal money has to be registered in there. And the UEI, which stands for Unique Entity Identifier, that's the first process. It's a little bit of a maze to get through there. A lot of people struggle with trying to do it on their own, which is why we have offered to jump in and help when it comes to these types of applications. The first round, we received a lot that kind of came at us all at once. And so we thought that we would hop on here and, be able to talk to you a little bit about when's the appropriate time to reach out to us, what's the timeline look like, and how we can help you with that. But like I said, you're going to have these videos here, but if you go through and you're struggling with following the directions on these videos and you're still not having success, you could always reach out to one of your PTAC counselors and we can walk you through how to get where you need to be. So there is going to be a number of documentation that is required for your UEI. I've listed here the most commonly used documents. This is not the complete comprehensive list. That list is hyperlinked at the bottom. What they are looking for, there's a two-part process. So when you first log into sam.gov, they're going to ask you to upload some documentation to validate that you are who you say you are. So these are the acceptable documentations that they're looking for. What they really want to see on here is your business name and your physical address. This becomes a problem for people with PO boxes. That's the biggest thing that we see with people that have PO boxes is that they upload them and the system will not accept them. So we need to get something that has physical address, and the name of the business. So you only really they require one strong document. I always encourage that we do at least two, just in case. So they're going to be looking for your articles of incorporation or formation. They're called different things state by state, but this is what you get when you register with the Secretary of State. If you have not registered with the Secretary of State, if you're a sole proprietor or something like that, you may not have that. That's okay. You just need one of these. So bank statements, your IRS letter assigning your EIN number, that's acceptable. You could even go on to the Secretary of State website and take a screenshot of your business profile, but it must be the current registration and it must include the registry URL so that they can validate that it's accurate. Or utility bill, as long as it's water, gas, or electric. So sometimes when people they struggle with finding something that actually has the physical address on it, sometimes utility bills are a great way to go. Same with bank statements. You can certainly redact any information on the bank statement that doesn't apply to the UEI process, which is really just the name and the physical address. But like I said before, you're going to be getting these slides, so I hope you're not ferociously trying to write all of these down, because you are going to be able to get this list. Now, time frame expectations. This is the main reason that I wanted to hop on here today and talk to you, because I really cannot stress enough the importance of reaching out to us as soon as possible. Currently, the UEI validation process is taking upwards of 4 weeks to process, and that's if everything is uploaded correctly. So here at PTAC, we do not manage or control the SAM.gov website. That is a federal database. So that's controlled by GSA. So we can assist you with this, but we're not able to expedite this process for you. All we can do is guide you on which are the appropriate documents to upload first, and that we've done the process correctly. Have I seen this process happen faster? Yes. Have I seen it take a little bit longer? Yes. But the average is about 4 weeks, and your absolute best chance of getting this done quickly is working with one of us at PTAC so that we make sure that you do it right the first time. It's a 2-part process. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go in, you're going to upload your documentation. Then you'll receive a notification from GSA, and they will let you know that your documentation has been accepted. Then you need to go back into the system and you need to claim your business as yours. And at that time, you will be issued a UEI. That is something that is proven to be really challenging for a lot of small business owners. It is not an easy website. If you struggle with this process, it is not a you problem, it is a website problem. So that's why we really are going to be there to help you. If you're struggling with it, you can give us a call. We can hop on a Zoom really quick, and we can go through screen by screen and tell you what to do on there. So really what I'm recommending is that you reach out to someone as soon as possible. It's definitely a time sensitive situation. And while you may be able to, you can't submit your application until you have the UEI, don't leave that to the last part of what you're addressing. Have that be the first part, because what we'll do is we'll upload the documentation and then there's going to be the wait time. And we don't know how long that's going to be. So the sooner we can do that, the better. And then this last slide that we have, and I actually saw it in the web chat here, asking for who the PTAC counselors are. This is us. This is our team. We're located all across the state. You'll see the little half moon that's correlated with our picture there. The color is on the map with our region. I'm the Central Maine counselor. I deal with Piscataquis, Penobscot, Hancock, and Waldo counties, but we have counselors all over. You're going to have these slides. It has our direct work cell phones on there. It has our direct email addresses on there. Reach out to the counselor in your county and just let them know that, you know, you're working with FAME, and you're going to be applying for this, and time is of the essence. You heard Miranda talking on the webinar, and you want to get this going ASAP. They are completely aware that there's going to be an influx of people that need this. And if you're looking at this map and it's confusing to you and you don't know which person to reach out to, if you reach out to any one of us, we will be happy to point you in the direction of the appropriate counselor for you.
Okay, so first, a couple of reminders before we go into closing bits. Please type in your questions into the Q&A. The chat is just kind of scrolling, so it's hard to know where questions are and what responses go to what. So if you've got a question, put it in the Q&A. We're going to be wrapping up here with our last final slides, but we'll spend a little bit of time doing more Q&A live. Also, if we don't get to your question during this webinar, we're going to take all of the questions because they're coming in fast. We are going to write up a Q&A and we will post the PowerPoint, the video recording, the written Q&A to our website, and we'll also send it out to all of the emails that we have registered for this. So you're going to get all of these materials, you're going to get all your questions answered, even if we don't get to them in the next, I don't know, 15 minutes or whatever it is. Okay, so key takeaways. Get ready now. Get your UEI, start that process, and gather materials. We've got the full list of documents that you need on our Thrive website, www.famemaine.com/thrive. Second, start creating a plan, or maybe you already have a plan of what you would use the loan for and how it would improve your organization and the Maine economy. Remember to be specific. That's going to help your application. We're going to have a ton more details on what we're looking for in the application, how to apply in the next webinar, which will be next week. You can also watch the website for more information. Example applications are going to go up next week. We'll have this webinar up on the website soon. We'll have all sorts of information, but watch it, that website. It's got tons of good stuff. And then finally, the application portal opens May 23rd and it closes June 23rd at 4:30. It is not first come, first serve anymore. This is a scored round. So you got to get your application within that window. It'll be open the whole time. You can submit on 4 o'clock at June 23rd if that works for you. As long as you fully submit it, you are in and will be considered. So again, the webinar is May 16th at 11 a.m. We will send out the registration link. If that time doesn't work for you, that's okay. We'll record it and post it to the website too, so you'll be able to watch it later. But that's where we'll go over a lot more details. I know a lot of you are asking for what's the exact scoring model and all of that. We're going to go over more of those details next week. But yeah, for more information, you can visit our website, famemaine.com/thrive. There's tons of information right there. Or you can call or email us and we'll try and get an answer back to you as soon as we can. But I guess, Jen, should we answer some questions that we're seeing commonly?
Yeah. So thanks for your patience as we kind of try to get in there and answer some of the easier ones kind of off the cuff. One thing that seems to be a theme is the discussion around nonprofits. So I just wanted to be clear that within the $58 million that was originally allocated, a portion of that was set aside for the nonprofit sector. In the first round, we didn't get enough applications from nonprofits to fill that allocated dollar amount. So those nonprofits are not do not have the priority within the industry type. So I did include that information in the chat, and we can certainly go into more detail on that going forward. But that was something that came directly when the funds were allocated to us, that the nonprofit sector had a specific allocation. There is I do see a question in the chat around how much of the 58 million is available and left for round 2. There was 26 million deployed in the first round. So just to give you a little bit of sense there.
I'm seeing a lot of questions about how applications are being scored. We gave the five, there were 5 little icons on the slide, and again, you'll get the slides and you'll get the recording. Those are the big categories that we're looking for in plans of, I can repeat them now, but again, you'll get them in your inbox. Improving efficiency, developing additional capacity, enhancing service, diversifying and enhancing revenue streams, and adding quality Maine jobs. You don't have to do them all, but we are looking for a plan to at least do one of those types of things. That's generally how we're scoring them. So if it's impactful to your organization, it can have ripple effects in the economy, and that's what we're looking for. So high level, that's what we're looking for in scoring. Again, we'll go into more details next week.
I do see a question around if cycle 1 was called Prime. It wasn't, it was called Thrive Maine. The Prime grants were done by Maine Technology Institute. There was a discussion in the beginning of the webinar around other agencies that also were deploying ARPA related funds, and MTI was one of them, using the Prime marketing name. So that is not our fund.
There's a couple UEI questions. UEIs do not, and Miranda, correct me if I say anything wrong, but UEIs do not expire. If you don't have a physical location, you can still get a UEI. And if your physical location moves, your UEI is still good, right?
So UEIs, so they do not expire, but they do need to be renewed every year. So the UEI will always have a status, active or inactive. So you do need to renew it the same way. If you are a business that already is registered in sam.gov, you need to keep that active and renew it every year. Again, if that's something that you say you do have a business that's already registered, but you haven't been in there in a while, you're going to need to go in there and activate it again. We can definitely help you with that. Just reach out to us.
And this round, you cannot say that you are applying for a UEI to submit your application. You need a UEI to submit your application this time. It's not as, because we are not first come, first serve, you do have until June 23rd to get your UEI, but you do need to have that UEI to submit.
And there was a question around if the larger corporations would soak up the funding quickly and not leave any for the smaller Maine businesses. And that was one of the reasons we took the approach we did this time around with the scoring model as opposed to first come, first serve. And we did utilize that thought process in the first round too, but I think this and creating smaller loan limits will also help with that. So the intention is know that the larger corporations will not have priority or soak up all the money.
Yeah, as part of the application, we ask you how many FTEs you have, and there are certain allocations based on the number of FTEs in your organization, so that the larger organizations are not going to come in and take all the money from the smaller organizations.
Miranda, I do see a question around which option that a company needs to opt for within the UEI website. And I believe it is the quicker option as opposed to the lengthier process. And I believe that's all you need is to obtain the UEI, not the more defined process. But can you confirm that?
Yes. So what I think that you're referring to is there is going to be a process where you get in there and it's going to ask you what you're applying for. Are you applying for all awards? Are you applying for awards and financial assistance, or are you just applying for a UEI? For this purpose, you only need to apply for a UEI. You don't have to worry about any of the rest of it. So choose UEI only. And that also leaves you open. If you apply for a UEI only and then you decide later you want to complete the whole thing, we can do that too. But that will be the fastest way for you to get it done. I also wanted to address a question I saw. I saw someone in here mention that they have a parent company that has some smaller companies underneath it, and they're asking which one will need a UEI. So in theory, all of them will have separate UEIs. when it comes to this application in particular, if you're applying for all of them, they're all going to need their own separate UEI. But if what you're looking for, if say you're a parent company and you have multiple LLCs under that parent company, you only need the UEI for the one that you're applying for. So don't worry about getting all of them done. You'll register just that LLC. You don't have to worry about registering the parent company even right away if you're only getting a UEI. Just make sure that the LLC that's applying for this particular program has their active UEI.
The other question that I keep getting is how the format of the impact statement will look on within the application portal. There will be prompting questions. I think there are between 7 and 10 questions that we ask, and it will be in a Word format that you can pull down and download onto your computer and incorporate your answers into it. So we'll have a nice detailed guide for you to complete that. I also see a question around the Thrive Round 1 awardees. We are an organization that is deploying these funds, and the federal government will be releasing the award recipients when they choose to. So that is not our information to give at the moment, but we do have it, and we can provide it as soon as we are able to, or if it's produced on their website or their servicing, we can certainly make that available on our website as well once they do. So there also was a question about how PPP relates to the COVID loss, the proof of the COVID loss. So I'm going to let Laura answer that question.
Yes. So if you received PPP or any other pandemic relief funding that was forgiven that you don't have to pay back, you still potentially could apply for this. What we don't want is if your total damage was about $50,000 based on reduced sales or a number of other things, and then you got $50,000 in PPP, we're going to consider you whole. You no longer have any losses from the pandemic. If your losses were $100,000 and you got in total from PPP and Prime and an EIDL advance, which are forgivable, which you don't have to pay back. If that total was 60 grand, then you still got $40,000 remaining of pandemic loss. Then you can apply for this loan. You need at least $10,000 remaining of pandemic losses. What we're not trying to do is for those folks who have gotten all sorts of pandemic relief money and have been made whole, we don't want this to be another program where they can continue to add to that surplus.
So there was a question around if the loan amount can be a lot more than the proven loss experience that you had from COVID. And just as a reminder, these funds there is a COVID qualifier essentially that the company does have to be affected by COVID. However, the amount of the loan request is not correlated to your pandemic loss. It's more for a project or growth of your company. So you're able to apply for anywhere between $10,000 and $500,000, explaining what your project is for. That doesn't correlate to necessarily the exact amount of your COVID impact to your company. There was another question that I saw a little earlier around whether or not the company applying would be given preference in those industry sectors. It's more the project-based, how those industry sectors would be determined, not necessarily the NAICS code of your company. And the NAICS code is just an industry identifier that's provided, and you can find it on your tax return. And we do indicate how to find that later in the next presentation next week. I also see a question around, can these funds be used for real estate development projects? Yes, they can. It's not exclusive of anything other than the industries we mentioned earlier, the adult entertainment, gambling, religious or fraternal organizations, or anything to do with marijuana. So yes, it would be eligible to be used for real estate development. And then to answer, there was a question about CBD. I think as long as you can prove that the THC content within your products don't exceed the parameters of the guideline federally, that would be okay. And I think the other correlation is that the funds, if there were any marijuana products in the same building or being sold in conjunction with CBD products, the revenue streams and money in bank accounts would have to be kept separately for it to qualify, and you'd have to be able to prove that.
I'm seeing some questions around sole proprietors. If there aren't any employees, can they apply? Yes, you can apply. We have a video on the website right now that helps you figure out what your FTE equivalent number is. If you are working on the organization, you count as one employee or at least a part-time employee. So you can use that, but sole proprietors for sure can apply. There's no match required for the loan. I mean, I think there's over 100 open questions. We can, I think at this point we can take it offline. We'll respond to all of the questions, we promise, and send them out. But this is, yeah, I think at this point we'll just take it offline. We'll organize all the questions, we'll send them out, and we will also prep for a really good webinar next week on Tuesday, May 16th at 11 a.m. And we'll get into more of the details on how to apply, what we're looking for, and hopefully we'll get all of your questions answered, so that you can create really good applications. And we look forward to that. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Thank you.